I wanted to find the ultimate road to glory save for FIFA 23, so I imported every single team into a spreadsheet, came up with a formula, and I've ranked every single team in the English 3rd, 4th, and German 3rd divisions to find the best road to glory team. The formula was done on values I think are super important for a fun career mode, basically potential, overalls, and the division of the team, where lower division is better, and then minor things like stadiums and ages. This video is split into 3 sections. The best foreign, in this case only German, but if I ever do a second tier version of this video, it'll also have France, Spain, and Italy thrown in. Then I'll look at the best 4th division teams, which in this case is only in League 2, and then finally I'll show you the best overall teams to use based on this data in every single league on FIFA. So let's get started straight away with the German 3rd division. I'll go through all of these teams and why they're so good in a second, but you can see Dresden are by far the best in the league. Borussia Dortmund's second team and 1860 Munich are both very good. Ingolstadt and Osnabrück are again solid options. When I did this experiment last year, German teams were let down by having a lack of real faces. So as I've removed this from the formula this year, it's mean a lot of these German teams have actually progressed quite far up the league. Dynamo Dresden are by far the best road to glory team in Germany, coming around 6 places higher than the next best team in Borussia Dortmund's second team. Dynamo Dresden were actually one of the most successful East German teams before Germany decided to reunify. So if you want a good road to glory with some good history, Dynamo Dresden is, as the spreadsheet suggests, a really good idea. Borussia Dortmund are so high up on this list because of how young and how high potential their squad is. If these are 2 things that are important to you, I don't think there's another team on this list who are as good, with as much potential, and as young of a squad. So Borussia Dortmund's second 11 could be a really good save if you're into youth. Next up is 1860 Munich, and these were actually the team that was the best on last year's video. They finished 1st overall with high potential and high overall, however their squad has got a little bit worse this year, meaning they're not quite as good of an option as they were in the previous season. Ingolstadt were in the Bundesliga only a couple of seasons ago, but now they find themselves in the 3rd tier. Unfortunately, they didn't get their stadium scanned onto the game, so they don't get any points for having a real stadium. However, they have got a pretty fun and interesting team, so maybe you can try and do their rise to glory. In real life, they rose from about the 7th division to the Bundesliga in less than 30 years, so there is definitely an aspect of road to glory in their history you can try and recreate. It's not only English people that like to play in League 2, anyone who wants the longest possible rise to the top is going to be starting in England's 4th tier. On the screen you can see the 5 best road to glory teams in League 2, starting off with Exeter, who are actually the best team in League 2. They're the only one that made it into the top 10 overall as well, with Exeter City having decent potential, a nice amount of average overall, and a fairly young squad. They were always going to score high compared to some of the other League 2 teams. Port Vale are another team. They don't have too much history in real life, however they have a fairly young squad, fairly good overall, and okay potential. In fact, a lot of the teams in League 2 are very similar. You're going to have to go down to teams like Sutton United and Barrow if you want a real challenge. Even newly promoted teams like Grimsby Town and Stockport County are fairly average with the rest of the league. For a team and a city as big as Bristol Rovers, I don't think League 2 is quite good enough for them. Both Bristol teams could easily be in the Premier League or the Championship, so that could be a good save if you're trying to match a rival. Forest Green Rovers are one of the most unique teams in League 2. With their whole ethos being trying to be carbon neutral as a football club and a community, they even only serve vegan food on their menus. So, Forest Green Rovers probably the most unique team for what is usually considered a fairly conservative and fairly right-wing kind of league, to have a left-wing football club. Northampton Town, again, is another Midland city where not too much goes on. It's kind of a bit run down these days. Northampton Town, again, a team that is in need of repair. So if you want to try and do a rebuild, probably Northampton Town is one of the best on this list. Compared to last year, Salford actually aren't doing too well. Salford were by far the best team last year because they have a lot of real faces, they had a very young squad, and they had a decent amount of potential. This meant they were a very good team. However, this year, their squads got worse, their potentials got lower, and I'm not including real faces as something being important to a road to glory anymore. So they've fallen all the way down to 25th overall, compared to their 10th place finish last season. So, now you've seen the best in Germany and the best in League 2, let's run through the entire top 10. So 10th place, as we mentioned before, is Exeter City. A good option from the south of England. They've got potential to grow, but they're not outstanding in any area. They're just above average in every single thing. They've got good potential, they've got good overall, and they've got a fairly young squad. Next up in 9th place is Bolton Wanderers. Of course, a team that was a regular in the Premier League. They actually have one of the top 5 abilities with their average overall, a very good squad to start off with. Their potential is a little bit lacking, but that's probably because they have a fairly old squad with an average age of 25.5 years old. With a little bit of room to grow, you can probably expect most of the squad to be League 1 level. However, that's exactly where Bolton Wanderers find themselves right now. Promotion to the Championship might be a bit too difficult for this squad without some strengthening, so maybe Bolton Wanderers could be a good rebuild opportunity. In 8th place is TSV 1860 Munich. Of course, we mentioned these as part of the Germany part of this video. One of the most fun things about a Munich career mode could be getting that rivalry with Bayern if you can ever get back to the Bundesliga. Of course, you used to share a stadium, you share a city, and you share quite a lot of friendships, so maybe it's time to make 1860 Munich the best team in Bavaria. Next up is Borussia Dortmund's second team. Again, the second teams aren't really that fleshed out on FIFA. You can get promoted, which you can't do in real life, so I don't think a Borussia Dortmund 2 career mode is actually going to be that fun if you want to play it realistically. Next up is Derby County. Of course, they have a big amount of issues off the pitch with their finances, and this has meant they've got a very old squad. A lot of their initial starting 11 are over 35, so if you want to do a low budget rebuild, maybe Derby County could be the save for you. It's going to be tough with their average overall being that of a League 2 team, but they do have some outstanding players in their first 11 that are still suited to the Championship. With a decent potential of over 70, again, if you can get promoted, you're probably going to have a squad that is fit to compete at least mid-table in the Championship. The 5th place position goes to Portsmouth, who I think get a large part of their score from having the only real stadium out of any one of the teams on this list. With Fratton Park on the stadium, a really good average overall of 65 and a potential of just under 70 on average, Pompey are on track to get back to the Premier League if you take over them on FIFA 23. It's going to be a good save. I always like playing with their real stadium. They've got real chants, they've got real kits. Everything about playing as Portsmouth is a fun career mode. They're probably the one I'd recommend the most so far, but we are only at 5th on this list. Next up is last year's relegated team from the Championship, Peterborough United. Another League 1 team. You can see they're starting to dominate this list with Bolton, Derby and Portsmouth already being on it. Well, Peterborough are on it for good reason. With an average age of just under 23, their potential on average is the highest of any 3rd or 4th division team on the entire game. The average Peterborough player will have an overall and potential of 63 and 71. This potential is reflected by how Peterborough manage their finances in real life. Almost every summer you'll see a big signing leaving Peterborough to go to a Championship or Premier League team. Players like Britta Sombolonga and Ivan Toney have shown that they can step up to the Championship and the Premier League respectively. So, if you're playing as Peterborough, make sure you try and do some wheeler dealing. Get some good young players in from better teams, sell them for a lot more money, and see if you can progress up the league in that way. Into the top 3 now, and it's one you'd probably expect in Sheffield Wednesday. While unfortunately their massive Hillsborough Stadium isn't actually on the game, what Sheffield Wednesday have is actually the best squad of any 3rd or 4th division team on the entire FIFA 23. Their squad is nearly 27 years old on average, so it's not got too much potential to grow, with only 3 more potential than their current average overall of 69. So this means that you're going to have to do it probably in the first couple of seasons. You're going to have to get promoted back to the Championship and then rebuild your old team in a slightly tougher league. This gives you quite a fun challenge. Are you going to keep some of your younger players around? Are you going to sell them so you can afford more old players so you can rush the league? Players like Barry Bannon, are they good enough to play in the Championship yet again? It's a lot of challenges coming with Sheffield Wednesday, but I think it's a top save. Second place was one of the most surprising to me, and it was MK Dons. So Milton Keynes Dons are of course one of the most hated teams in the entirety of England. But what they do have is a ton of high potential players. Some of them are on loan. People like Jamie Cumming and Louis Barry are their 2 highest potential players, and they're both on loan. However, having these loan players means they do have the second most potential of any team in the league. Their overall is better than Peterborough United, they've got a slightly younger team than Sheffield Wednesday, and this combined with their high average overall means they're the second best Road to Glory you can do from any 3rd or 4th division team on FIFA 23. And finally, the first place spot is unfortunately one we've already mentioned, is Dynamo Dresden. They win on overall, they win on potential, they've got a young squad, and they're in the 3rd division. I love their kits as well. If only they had a real stadium, they really would be the perfect Road to Glory team. They've got a good young team with good potential, they've got real history you can try and recreate, they've got a nice kit, it's only that one thing that they are lacking. And that's why I recommend you give Dynamo Dresden a go, and make sure you let me know how it goes by either messaging me on Twitter, messaging me on Discord, or leaving comments below. But thank you all for watching, subscribe if you want to see more like this, I'll see you soon for another video, thank you, and goodbye.